Anna, welcome to the podcast. How are we?
So much for having me here. I'm excited to talk with you
Me
today.
too. And we've got a lovely sun outside today, which I
Oh,
think has put everyone in a good mood, isn't it?
glorious.
I saw a tweet last night, or was a Reddit even, that made me laugh, and I thought it'd be quite funny to read it out at the start of this conversation because I think it summarizes money in your
Mhm.
20s really well. I'm not very good at reading, but I will read it out. It said, trying to manage your money in your 20s feels like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You get paid, blink twice, and somehow it's all gone on rent, bills, and whatever impulse buys you made at 2 a.m. drunk. Meanwhile, your friend just bought a house. People online are living their best luxury lives, and no matter how much you earn, you're still living paycheck to paycheck. Why will we feel forced to memorize Shakespeare in school instead of learning how to manage our money? And
Wow.
I feel like they've just absolutely
That,
nailed
yeah,
just money in general on that. Why is managing your finances so hard?
goodness me. So if we go to that quote alone, you're hitting on so many different things there. You're hitting on cost of living. You've talked about bills rising and it just a hole in the bottom of your bucket. It's just all coming out. You've hit on comparison and relating to everyone else around you and the digital world we live in, where you can see everybody else's life, but the bits they're choosing to show you, which looks so shiny and amazing compared to your life. You're thinking about, even things like buying a house, how that's become increasingly difficult for people. And then finally, at the end of that, there, I mean, it is such a brilliant quote. Like, well
Yeah.
done finding that. You're talking about the idea that we got a good education. Like most of us come out of school with a great education, maybe go to uni, higher education, never having really learned how to handle our money for real life, like never being taught that stuff. So you're thrown out into the world just kind of hoping to make it work, to wing it and see what happens. That was definitely my story. And I think, yeah, so I have a maths degree. I'm somebody who's really well educated. I'm good
So
with
you should be
numbers.
good
I
with
should
numbers.
be good.
Yeah.
I was somebody that I thought to myself, if I do these things, if I follow this track, I'll be fine later in life. It will be good. And that was not the case for me. And I think that's the case. It hasn't been the case for many, many others. And that's what we're kind of catching up with now. We're all kind of coming to terms with this and going, do you know what? Actually, there's got to be a level of knowledge and understanding that we all need that we surely weren't taught.
Mm. What do you think are some of the most common challenges that you see when it comes to finances when you're maybe in your mid to late 20s? I feel like early 20s is like maybe you're at university or you've got a little bit of income and it feels disposable. It
Mm.
feels like it doesn't really matter if I have savings at the moment. It's kind of just there to support the life that you want, whether it's going out and drinking and having fun and going traveling and experiences. And I feel like as soon as you get to like mid to late 20s, there's this like this, I don't know, energy that comes
Yeah.
in and you're like, wow, I should probably start thinking about some of these
Yeah.
things. Like I know there's some things that I need to be doing, but like maybe I haven't really started.
Yeah.
Why is that so common, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really good description the way you've just gone through it there. I think in uni it is, or even sort of in your early
Mm,
20s, you are kind of what you haven't got at that age, which I didn't realize at the time, is you haven't got a baseline for what life costs and what your income and your outgoings is going to be. And I think it takes a little while, it takes a few years to kind of get into that rhythm and that pattern. So most people are going to go and get a job and they'll have a monthly income. That is the norm. There are variations of that. Some people are self-employed, all that kind of thing. But gradually, as you go through your 20s, you start to see those patterns and you sort of see money coming in and you see money going out. And then you start to notice, hang on a second, money's coming in and going out, and then there's never any left. Like
mm,
there's no progress here. This is the same as when I was 20 and I'm now 26. Why has there not been any progress? Why is nothing changing? And even with like good jobs, things like teachers, doctors, people that you kind of think the amount of work you're putting in, you should be seeing a lovely pay
mm,
rise as you go through life. And then you start to go through life and you realize actually the pay rises aren't really keeping up with what we need to be seeing in our bank account to help us have the kind of lives we want to have. And it's very challenging. And I think, yeah, we start off with that kind of lack of baseline. And then you kind of see, as you go through your 20s, this kind of pattern starting to emerge. And then I think that's when it hits later on in your 20s. That's certainly what happened to me,
mm.
is you go, hang on a second, lots of years have gone by now and I'm not really seeing any progress and forward movement in my financial life. I think I probably should be.
Mm.
What do I do?
I almost call it I don't know if this is the term for it. might have made it up myself, but this idea of paycheck inflation or paycheck to paycheck inflation, whereby seemingly no matter how much more you earn, you're still getting to the end of the month looking at your bank account going, where's all my money gone? And it almost just seems to be like when you have this security and confidence of an income coming in, and when you get these promotions and increases in pay and salary increases, you're thinking, well, I can spend more money now, and you almost just stay in this same pattern throughout. Is that something that you see as well?
Absolutely. I mean, think of the last time you had a bit more money. Did it go anywhere other than just out again? It doesn't, it's hard to feel more money unless you've got a plan for it. So the biggest problem we have is we have a massive lack of structure and knowing what to do with our money when it comes in. That kind of practical, like infrastructure, if you like, in your life doesn't really get taught. So money does come in that goes out, and then the more becomes a bit of a myth. It becomes this kind of thing you're always pressing towards, always the thing you're trying to grab for. Then you get it, and then because there's no infrastructure, it just goes again. And there is that thing as well. I think another problem we've got, so we've got the infrastructure problem, but then we've also got the problem of things are starting to cost more. And so there's this kind of feeling, I think, that we have of we would like to expand our lifestyle a little bit most of the time. So there's, especially with social media and stuff, you're constantly aware of what you don't have. So when more money comes in, if you're going to trade off between, do I put some of that money aside? Do I start making really wise decisions for my future self with that money? Do I build that infrastructure? Do I start making that money work for me? Or do I just release the pressure a little bit and have a bit more fun? And this week I am going to go out for that meal that I couldn't do last month because I didn't have enough money. So we've kind of, I think now more than ever, we've got that pressure. We can feel that pressure emotionally of there's a sensible decision, there's making our money work hard for us, but then there's also the pressures of modern life, meaning we just want to have some fun. We just want to, things are tough. Things are complicated right now in the world. It's really hard to buy a house. It's really hard to do these things. This little bit of extra money, yeah, maybe I'll just spend it and just let my hair down a little bit because that just make me feel a bit better. So there's that constant trade-off, I think.
It's interesting you mentioned like the emotional side of it. Like I sometimes feel guilty for not being as financially responsible as I should be, in a sense of have money coming in. I do have a let's call it like a direct debit that goes from one bank account to a Monzo account, and that's like £500 a month that just like automatically gets sent. That's about it. Like that's like I've done something, but I do look at it, and then when I read things like your book and I see some of your content and I realize how much more there is to do, there is this level of like, shit, I should be doing some of those things. Why do you think people struggle so much to do the things that they know they should be doing, even with them feeling guilty that they're not doing it?
Tell me more about that feeling, because that will help me answer that question. Because you're saying, oh, I know I probably should be doing more, feeling a bit guilty about that. What does that then motivate you to take action, or does it just make you think, what does that do for your actual experience? What happens?
I think it goes back to that concept I mentioned on the train on the way here, like the self-development paradox, where as soon as you have this expectation of where you want to be in the future, so with money, I want to have a really good budget and I want to do all these things. Often when you feel yourself being so far away from those things, it makes me feel worse, and it almost becomes like, well, I'm not doing it, so I'm not even going to bother. And if I don't bother, then I don't feel bad because I'm not trying to do those things. So I think for me, now that I've been researching a little bit and looking into it a lot more, there's more of a motivation to do it. But I haven't ever sat down on a Sunday afternoon and put a budget together or actually calculated what comes in and what comes out. So yeah, I think the feeling is like a guilt that I'm not doing the thing that I know I need to be doing, probably alongside all of the other things in my life that I need to be doing that
exactly. I think that's probably the key thing there, is because I just think there's so many parallels with fitness. I really do. I'm not a really sporty person, but I know that fitness is important, and whether I like fitness or not, got to do it because that is how I'm going to live a long time.
Mm.
And I think I don't get motivated when I see somebody else's routine, gym routine, and how they do their gym stuff, their fitness stuff. Doesn't motivate me at all, because I'm just like, okay, I probably should do something like that, but cool, good for them. Doesn't really resonate with me, doesn't make me want to do it. What does make me want to do it is when I stop and look at my life and I take a step back and I go, okay, where do I want to be? What do I want to see happen in? So if we keep with the fitness thing for a minute, what do I want? I know that for me, I want to be strong through my 40s. So I'm about to turn 40 this year. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at my 40s and I'm going, I want to be strong. I want to be physically strong. I want to be somebody that can do all kinds of things and activities and not put my back out and not put my shoulder out. And I know this is like a bit of an age thing coming in here, but it is a reality. It's like, especially as a woman, you have to think about these things. You have to think about, how am I going to stay strong for a long time? And I think it's like that with money. We can see somebody else's routine. We can see that there's this latest, okay, there's these bank accounts and there's like, okay, stocks and shares ISA, okay, what's that? And hear these terms and you hear all these tricks and hacks and you're like, cool. But it doesn't motivate you to do anything with it, because it just makes you see, exactly like you're saying, that gap between where you are now and where somebody else is, or where you think you should be at your age in life. It's not very motivating. So what I suggest people do, and this is what I help people do with the stuff I teach, stop for a second, just take a step back before you get to any of the practical stuff, any of the detail of your bank accounts and jargon, blah, blah, blah. Just wait a minute, take a step back and just go, okay, let me have a think about my relationship with money, what I think about money, how it's showing up in my life, but also what is it I actually want my life to look like? Where do I want to go? And how is money going to be the tool to get me there? What do I need that to do for me to get to these things? Because money is not, like we talked about earlier, more is not the answer. More money doesn't fix things. It can only fix the things that you need it to fix, if you see what I'm saying. Like the money, people say, you know, money only fixes money problems.
So putting more water in a bucket with holes in
Exactly
isn't
that.
gonna fucking fix anything.
Exactly that. I mean, we've got to be real that there is, you know, there are situations where sometimes money does fix a problem. It does. But like you say, if there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket and it's just coming out the bottom. So what are the holes in the bucket? But before even that point, to motivate you to action, it's got to come from within. It's got to come from a sense of, okay, money is a tool that can get me this, this, and this. Well, what is this, this, and this? What are the things you want to go for? So I do this thing that I talk to people about called a deep dive board. It's a little bit like a vision board, where you stop for a second and you go, right, I'm just going to get on paper what I really want my life to look like. Things I want to do, things I want to make happen, not just for myself, for other people, for my community, for my family, for my friends. I want to think about the life that I want, the house that I want. And it doesn't have to be time framed. It could be the next 5 years. It could be the next 10 years. But just getting stuff out of your head, because we rarely do this, and actually putting it on paper, whether that's a list, whether that's sketching out on a book, whether that's Canva and sticking photos up on there. And then have a look at that and go, okay, well, what would it take to actually make that happen in monetary terms? When you start putting those numbers down on paper, firstly, you might find out, do you know what, for some of these things, I'm actually a lot closer than I thought I was if I just made a plan. And then other things, okay, they are a bit further off, but at least I know now what kind of trajectory I need to be on to start moving in that direction. And I think when you visualize that, and this is what I've seen happen with people, excuse me, when you visualize it, but then you break it down in financial terms, suddenly then you go, okay, well, let's start building the system. Let's start making that happen. Much more of a motivating place to start from, because then you know, okay, I'm not saving for the sake of saving. That savings pot is specifically for that thing that I've seen I want to go for. And I think doing things for the sake of doing them, or because you've been told to do things, it runs out pretty quick. You just get bored of it pretty quick. But when you've got a really clear vision of where you want to go, that is for you then. And that's something for you to hold on to. And then you can really start to find the energy and the drive to figure that out in your financial life and do the steps you need to take.
And I think having this overview and vision of where you want to be, and then breaking it down and having these, let's call them mini goals along the way, when you hit some of those goals, you're going to get a hit of dopamine. You're going to get like a positive feedback from hitting that. And that's going to keep you more motivated to do it more and more. So if you've just hit, one of 10 goals that you've got, it's like, great, I've ticked off number one now. Let's go get number two. And I feel like that's a lot more achievable when you've broken it down into some of those steps. When we had our pre-call, we were playing with the idea as well of like, what does motivate people? Is it running towards something? So am I running towards this goal and that's what's going to motivate me? And can people be motivated by running away from something? If you look at a lot of successful entrepreneurs and business people, sometimes they're like running away from something earlier in their life, and that gives them the motivation to push forward, right? I think for a lot of people, maybe growing up with not much financial stability or security, how can we use some of these things that are probably going to be baked into our psychology in a positive and healthy way to be better with money and manage money better?
I mean, what you've said there is so important about doing it in a positive and healthy way, because when we look back at our experiences, our background, our influences with money, you might see some positive and good things, and then you might see some negative things, and then in some cases some extremely negative things that are quite frankly traumatic that some people have had to go through in their past and they've seen. And then what can happen is either repeated behaviors that you've seen in the past, excuse me, repeated behaviors from the past, doing the same things that you saw happen when you were younger, or you can go the other end of the spectrum where you're desperately never wanting to do that ever again, or be that person, or repeat that experience. But in both those scenarios, there can be sort of quite an unhealthy undertone to it, a sort of drive to not be that thing. I've got to run away from it. So I think we do have to do the work in ourselves of going back and just looking at the things in our past, we all have to do that in every area of our lives, don't we? And sort of look back and go, well, what were the things that made me who I am that are really positive, and what are the things that made me who I am that I actually need to go and sort out and have a look at? And I think it's the same with money. So I think, like you said, doing it from a healthy place just means revisiting those things potentially and kind of coming to terms or dealing with those things in a way. But if you are looking to do it in a healthy way, I think you can still get data from those things. You can look back and you can go, well, actually, that's why I've been through things in my life where I think, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that thing in the future. So what am I going to do about it? What am I going to take responsibility for? And how can I change things now that'll ensure that isn't the future for me and my family? What's in my control that I can change, and so I can move things in a different direction? So I do think it's important to sort of address and look through. You've got to be careful with these things though, haven't we? When anything we're talking about where you're looking back and you're sort of picking things apart in your past, that's deep stuff. It can be very deep for people, and I think definitely some things would be wise to talk through with other people, get some help with. But some things you can do on your own. You can just have a look and go, okay, well, I went through that and I went through that, and I don't want that to be my future. What can I do? What's in my control to make sure that isn't the case?
And this is one of the first steps of the book as well, which we've got 10 steps. Well, the book is called Money Mentor, 10 essential steps to do your future self a favor. And it seems like it's broken into what I'm going to call 3 buckets of mindset, manage, and multiply.
That's right.
Sounds like we've covered a lot of bucket 1
Yeah.
in terms of the mindset, which I'd describe as developing a healthy money mindset and defining your personal goals. We've got 2 steps in this bucket. What's the first step and what's the second step?
In our mindset one, okay, so master your money mindset is really important. So we've talked about this already. It's like looking at just looking at the idea of a money mindset, coming to terms with that is a thing. It is a thing. I often talk about it as like the accelerator pedal or the handbrake. So it can either really help you get going if it's fired up and going in the right direction, or you can find, and some of your listeners might find this, they might be trying to make changes, things they want to do differently. They're doing positive things, but they keep getting stuck in the same area. And often that can be because of some sort of a mindset.
What's an example of that?
A really good example would be like saving. You know, you've tried to put money aside, but every time you put money aside, you dip back into it and you're like, what? Why do I keep doing this? Surely, or overspending is a massive one, a mindset thing, because that kind of compulsion to like get the next thing or stick it on the credit card. I know I can't afford it, but I just want to get it. Where's that coming from? And I think that can be that can just be a practical habit that we just got stuck in. But again, I think habits often come from a deeper mindset thing going on as well. So it's just looking at the importance of, you know, you do need to break this down. You do need to have a look at it. You do need to acknowledge that it is a thing and work out where you sit with it and what could you change, what could you work on that will help it become more of an accelerator pedal in your life. So know your money mindset. And then the other one is define what you want, which again, we've just talked about, which is the idea of sitting with your thoughts for a minute, sitting with your heart and just going, okay, what do I want my life to look like? And I do think we live in a bit of a society where the kind of status quo thing comes into play a bit as well, where it is that, and I certainly experienced this, it's go to school, go to uni, get a job, maybe have kids at some point, hope for the best, and try and get a house if you can. It'll be fine. It'll all work out. And
You've literally just described the bio of this podcast.
Is it that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so we get to a point in our lives where we go, hang on a second. And the reality is, like, for my age, my parents are boomers. They are so great. My parents absolutely love them. But they were in a generation where it was, if you can get a house and you can live in that house for a very long time, you're probably going to do quite well because they've paid off their mortgage, got a lovely house, really big house, and they didn't pay a lot for it at the time. And you're like, oh, it's just not the same now. So there's a reality that we live in, which is what I saw my parents doing with their money. It's not the same roadmap anymore. And I think that's something I really had to come to terms with. I had to just acknowledge that at one point and just go, okay, my life's going to look different. And honestly, that wasn't easy. I kind of thought my life would look a certain way. And then I got to a certain point and I was like, it's not going to work out the same for us and our family. We've got a different life. And that's a good thing. But it also meant I had to level up and look at things differently, which meant looking at the vast array of options that are out there for us that we don't hear enough about, like entrepreneurship, investing, property, and all kinds of different types of property, not just buy your house and live in it for a very long time. There's a whole world out there of opportunities that actually, again, at school, we don't really learn about. It's all about getting that job when you leave uni, right? So that was kind of my experience. It was like, go down that rabbit hole, find the other opportunities out there and start grabbing hold of some of them for yourself. So, yeah.
So we've got within this bucket one, then understand the money mindset. This is something that we covered with episode 7 with Laura Moore about where our emotional relationship with money really comes from. And annoyingly, a lot of things in life are just related to your childhood, which is like uncontrollable at the time, but we can do a lot in the future. And then it's about step 2 is then defining what you actually want, having your financial goals and just having a kind of an aim and a direction. Which brings us on to bucket 2, which is managing your money, maybe gaining control over your finances through budgeting, building emergency funds, managing debt, all of these amazing, exciting things that I'm sure everyone really wants to learn about right now. There's quite a few steps in this one.
Yeah.
What are the key things that people need to know about bucket 2, about managing your money?
Great. Okay, so this is the bit where we get practical. So you've had to think about what you want to go for. You've had to think about, well, okay, what's that going to cost? What's that going to actually mean in real terms financially for me? Cool. Okay, so based on where I'm at right now, because you can't plan for where you hope you're going to be, which is what I tend to do when I'm on default. I go, oh, in a few years' time I'll be here, so I'll just plan. No, you're not there now. Come back, pull it back a second. Where am I now? What's actually landing in my bank account every month? Or if you're self-employed, regularly landing in your bank account. Let's have a look at that. And really the whole manage section is the bit we started off just at the very beginning when you had that quote. Money's coming in, it's going out, but hang on a second, it's kind of leaking everywhere. Doesn't feel like I'm under control here. It doesn't feel like this is under control. And I do this diagram in the book where it's like, I think for a lot of people, money comes in. And then if you imagine, you just get a pencil and just scribble on a page, just a pencil scribble. That's kind of that's how it looks in your bank account each month. It's just kind of like, woo, like this. And it's just a mess. So you think of your money and you think, oh, great, brilliant. It's just this tangled up mess. And what I try and help people do is through that section in Manage is to unpick that and just add one layer at a time. okay, what's the first thing to add? What's the second thing to add? And just step by step, because we didn't get taught how to do this. And it's not as boring as it sounds if you know why you're doing it and if you understand each layer as it comes. So it's going from money comes in, it's all messy, to money comes in, I know exactly where it's all going, to the pound, it's all planned. Got a thing that I'm sticking to each month. Most of it's automated, so I don't even need to touch it. It just happens. Happy days. Love that. And then I've gone from paycheck to paycheck because I'm just spending it all to, okay, I've got this thing called pay yourself first now. So I'm putting a bit of my money aside. And with that money, I am going to start growing it. I'm going to start building assets. I'm going to start thinking about the future, making that money grow. It's not all just coming in and going out. I've got a plan. This is not paycheck to paycheck anymore because I've got savings and we're off. And that's a massive shift to go from paycheck to paycheck to start putting these things into place and setting these things up, even if it's automated mostly. Feels great because then you get that sense of like, okay, we're moving, we're seeing progress, let's go.
I'm doing something.
Yeah.
That's good. So we've covered a couple of things there. One of them was know your numbers, which is step 3, which is understanding the things coming into your bank and the things leaving your bank. And it's probably looking like a big squiggle on a paper right now. And how do we just start to untangle that and say, where are things coming in and out? That sounds not easy, but that sounds very achievable, I think, for the person listening now. You mentioned step 4, which is pay yourself first. What's that?
It's not what it sounds like. I didn't come up with the name. It's kind of like an ancient thing. I don't even know who the first person to come up with it was, but it's the idea of not pay yourself first so you can go and have a jolly, which would be lovely. The idea is you're paying yourself money. As soon as you get paid, you're putting some money towards your future self. So it's to either improve your financial well-being through paying off debt or building an emergency fund, or it's once you've done that, you can then put it towards your future and starting to build this life that you want to go for and do the things you want to do, making that money work, making that money grow. So that would be through things like potentially starting investing, or maybe building up a little entrepreneur fund so you can start that business you've always been talking about, or that side hustle. Perhaps it'll be saving for a property that you're going to maybe one day have an investment property, start putting money towards that. Anything that is moving you forward, so you're not just kind of in that cycle anymore, but your money's now growing and moving you in that direction. Yeah.
And that's something that could be automated as well. Like I mentioned earlier, as soon as my money hits my Barclays account, I think it's like 24 hours after I usually get paid, there's an automatic portion of money that gets sent to Monzo, and then I can't touch that.
Perfect.
That's just there. And like sometimes I have to dip into it every now and again. Life happens, but I have to go through such a process of going to, I mean, it's not that hard because Monzo is pretty good, but then physically moving the money back to then spend it creates this friction, I think, that stops people doing things as an impulse.
Absolutely.
Step 5, emergency fund. That sounds exciting.
Really exciting. Well, I think just coming back to the previous point, I really want to make it clear that saving for the sake of the saving sucks. It is so boring. There's always something more fun you could be doing with that money. So I don't think saving for the sake of saving is the answer for most people. I think you need to know exactly what that money is achieving for you. So with the pay yourself first money, there is an order to what you're going to do with that money. It's not just like, just put it aside. Cool. Just put it aside. Cool. But then, one day that holiday is going to come up and you're going to be like, oh, I actually do have a pot of money. So I might just, so you need to know what it's for. So that it is actually ring fenced for something. And also it gives you that motivation to do it because you're going, okay, well, here's my target for that money. And once I hit that target, it's going to open this door. So let me give you an example.
Motivation's there then.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was the emergency fund. So emergency fund, let's talk about that a second. Yay. It isn't glamorous or sexy. It is the quiet discipline of putting money aside so that you are in a position of strength in your financial life, so that if you need to quit your job, you can. If a big expense comes in out of nowhere, you've got money for it. You don't have to put it on a credit card. If something happens to you, let's hope it never does, health-wise, and just a spanner in the works, you've got a backup. And
dentists.
Oh,
the dentist is always the one.
Oh yeah. Comes out of nowhere, and there it is. And that's exactly it. Life does throw curveballs, and I think I know it feels like years ago now, but when 2020 hit and all that stuff happened, many years before that, there wasn't, well, we've never seen anything like that in our lifetime, have we? But it was one of those wake up calls where you go, anything can happen. Like literally anything can happen. That's life. That is normal life. Things happen that you just cannot see coming. And I think obviously an emergency fund's not going to solve all of life's problems that things get thrown at you, but a large chunk of them, you know, it can help you feel like you've got that backup there ready to go when something does happen, because inevitably things do happen. And I think one of the problems with the emergency fund is, so what I hear people tell me, and this was certainly my experience as well, is one of the things you can't communicate to somebody that has never done it before, but I wish I could, is that when you complete an emergency fund, the sense of relief and instant improvement in your well-being that happens is kind of off the charts. So you hit that, you go, okay, well, I'm going to build an emergency fund. It's recommended that it's 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. So whatever it costs you to live, not all the fun stuff. What is that number for bills, rent, whatever? Add that up for 3 to 6 months and then kind of save that as a pot. And so when you hit that target, honestly, because I think a lot of us, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're always in the back of your mind, it's like this hum, this kind of background hum of anxiety. If anything big happened right now, I haven't got anything to get me out of that. And when you do, and you have that pot there, it's just amazing. The feeling it gives you is just incredible to know, do you know what, if I needed to pivot in my life, I've got funds that make that possible. And that happened to me. We built an emergency fund as a family, and then shortly after that my husband changed careers, and it was partly because we had done that we were able to do that confidently and enjoy that journey rather than stressing about that. And yeah, I was so glad that we did it. And the door that it opened for me, so coming back to the motivation behind it. So for me, I wanted to start investing. I wanted to see my money grow, because I knew that I wanted, when I'd done my sort of deep dive board and I'd mapped out where I want to go, there's so many things I wanted to do. And I just knew that I needed to create growth quite quickly and get that going and make that happen. So for me, investing was a part of that. And I knew that you can't really start investing. You shouldn't really start investing until you've got an emergency fund. You need to have your financial well-being done, be in a good spot before you can start taking risks like investing. So I knew I couldn't do the thing I wanted to do until I had my emergency fund. So it was like this carrot dangling in front of me. Come on, you can do it. Get that done. And then you can get onto investing and start trying that out. And that was great. So we'd done our emergency fund, it was then like, okay, cool. Now what was going into there, don't need to do that anymore. We can pop that into growth and then start seeing that money grow, which is really rewarding. It feels good.
Having the foundations in place before building the skyscraper. Before we jump on to part 3, which is multiply, which is the investing you're speaking about there, we've got step 6 and 7, which is conquer debt and then assign every pound. What are the main things people need to know about that?
Okay. Thorough. This is thorough. I like it, Adam. So conquer debt, bit of a minefield these days. We've got layers of debt that we didn't used to have. Things like just completely forgot the term. Buy now, pay later. That's what I was going for. Making it so easy to just borrow money and spend money on things you didn't have the money for in your bank account, and maybe you did, but I don't know why I'm coughing so much today. It's so easy to take on debt now. It's crazy. And just with a tap,
there's no friction towards taking on debt. And I think there's the buy now, pay later debt. I know some friends that have gone traveling and they've taken out a loan to go traveling and they're kind of paying for it now. And it's on reflection, I think they go, probably wasn't worth it. But I feel like at that time, it's kind of just like, it's kind of like free money. I'll worry about it later. Student loans, for example, I don't necessarily see that as like a typical debt. I look at that as like a graduation tax. That's just there. I don't have to touch that. That just gets sorted for me, and it's going to be carrying on doing that for like another 25 years or whatever. If a person's listening now and they're in debt, what's maybe the first step that they need to do to start moving out of that debt?
I think we need to acknowledge what effect debt has on us as humans, because I think the trouble with money and finance is, like I said, I'm a maths person. So I know numbers, and I know looking at numbers and making very practical decisions about how to solve an equation. It's just non-emotional, just solve an equation, done. With money, it's not the same. And I think because it's numbers, you're looking often at transactions in a bank app, or you're looking at a spreadsheet perhaps, you think numbers. It's not. It's your life, and it's so emotional. And I think there's not enough discussion around how debt affects us. So yes, technically, X plus Y, I can pay it off. Cool. But really, what's the emotional and mental toll that it's taking on you, having to repay that and knowing that that debt is there? And I think that's something to acknowledge, because it does have an impact on our well-being, having debt. And you ask anybody that's got out of debt and how good it feels to be out of debt. It's good to be out of debt. It feels good. Why? Because having debt has a toll. It does have an emotional toll on us. And I think just to acknowledge that and have a look at what is your relationship with debt? What is it? What do you see it as? How do you frame it in your mind? All those kinds of things is really helpful. But I think if you are looking to get out of debt and you're looking to start making progress in that direction, I think firstly, just to say it's a really good endeavor, like well done. It's great. And it's a good thing to do. And even though the whole of the marketing world will tell you, no, just buy more stuff. That's better. Just don't worry about the debt. Just buy more stuff. That'll be great. I think it's really, really good that you're looking to do it, and you should know that that's a good thing, and well done. It's not easy, and cool. The second thing to say is just if you are in significant debt and it's affecting how you're able to pay for things that you need to be paying for right now, and it is a burden, like a true burden, there are so many charities and debt advisors that are free to speak with that can help you, and you do not have to do it alone. And I think, again, with debt often comes that feeling of like, well, I got myself in this situation. Maybe you didn't. Maybe it was life. Let's be honest. A lot of the time that can happen. Life throws you a curveball and you have to take on debt. That does happen frequently to people. But say, for example, you are somebody who did make some mistakes and took on some debt that you didn't plan to. You don't have to do it alone. Just because you got in that situation, you don't have to then battle your way out on your own. And also, you don't have to pay anyone to help you. There's so many brilliant charities in the UK that will just walk you through that. Even if you don't feel like maybe it's not enough to talk to somebody. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Get on a chatbot with one of these charities on their website.
What's the name of the charity?
Someone I've worked with a bit is CMA, Community Money Advice. They're very, very good. And they've got a chatbot on their website. So you don't have to speak to someone straight away if you don't want to. You can just do it anonymously and just say, hey, here's my situation. What would you advise as my next step? And if they say, just do this, and this, cool. But they might say, let's have a phone call. Let's see if I can help you. And there's so many levers you can pull to move forward that we wouldn't know about, but other people with expertise would, that can help you get there quicker. So I think, so definitely don't feel like you have to do it alone. And it's worth it. It's hard. It's another discipline to go through to pay off debt. And I think the other thing just to say as a quick tip is any way you can visualize it and break it down into little steps is going to help you with that progress as well. So I love, like a lot of people I work with, they just print it out on the wall, just break it down and, sort of your debt total and just tick it off as you go and see that, getting down. Really, really good thing to do.
That's positive feedback, Luke, as well, making progress towards something.
Yeah.
Step 7 was assign every pound, which is creating a budget where every pound has a designated purpose. I feel like we've covered that so far in terms of just having data on what's coming in, and then where are you, how much are you saving, where are you putting, what like pots are you putting that into, what's that then assigned to in terms of, is it travel, is it buying a house? I think we've covered that one so far. I'm really keen to spend the last 10 minutes on the multiply aspect of this, which is the third bucket, which is growing wealth by creating assets, understanding compound, and then diversifying income streams. And I feel like the person listening will either be in two boats with this. They'll either have somewhat of an idea of what this is and be like, yeah, I'll probably do it a little bit, like I'm kind of just winging it, but it's kind of going okay, I'm probably in this boat. Or you're going to think that out of everything we've spoken about so far, this is probably the thing that's going to feel most out of reach when we start talking about investing. For both of those people, what do people need to know around creating assets and this? I think you call it the eighth wonder of the world, being compounding and the diversifying your income streams.
Yeah. The idea of this last section, multiply, is to get us out of that headspace that we kind of get trained into, which I certainly did, of just get one income and just stick with that one income. Now, don't get me wrong, if you've got that one income, you love your job and it's what you need and that's enough, great, like brilliant, nothing wrong with that. But I think we are seeing more and more people now in jobs that are working so hard, but it's not quite enough to get them where they need to go. And retirement, houses, building a nest egg for the future, funding a trip they want to go on, it's just not enough. But even if you are earning a good income, it's still good to think about the future, because it might be that you don't want to retire at 85 or whatever it's going to be for someone like me. But
you know what, like it probably will be at some point.
Exactly.
It just keeps going up.
So rather than letting someone else decide that, why not take matters into your own hands a little bit and think, well, actually, do you know what, I'm actually going to build myself a nest egg, and I am going to start thinking about how I'm going to get to where I want to go using the money I've got. So it's about thinking about streams of income rather than just one stream of income, which was completely new to me when I started all this, because I was just like, I just thought, you just have to go and interview and just get another job. And it's like, well, no, money's created in so many different ways. And you've probably had the thing about most millionaires have 7 types of income. It's not just one, 7. And that's not 7 houses which are all paying them rent. No, I'm talking about like investing. So you've got dividends, you've got maybe employment income, you might have dividends from a business that you own, you might have rent income from a property that you own, and it just all these different ways of creating income. You're like, oh, okay, I've really not explored this. So the idea in that section is just to give people to sort of lay out a bit like a buffet. So rather than it being right now you need to start investing, or now you need to start doing this, it's like, well, let's just stop for a second and have a look what's out there. Just have a look, see what piques your interest, because the right route for me might not be the right route for you. So let's have a look at what there is on the table, and then if there's something out of those things that you think, oh, that's interesting, I think maybe I could do that. Maybe I could actually put a bit of money here and actually see it grow, which means it would be this rather than this in 10 years time. So things like that. So the 3 main ones is BIP, business, investing, property, are the 3 main routes to creating assets. And if you've never heard of assets versus liabilities before, I mean, that is one to get your head around as well. Liabilities being things that you own. It's the Robert Kiyosaki definition from Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is, the one, which is basically liabilities are things you own that cost you money to have. So actually they're not making you money, they're taking money from you because you have them. Things like a car, it's very expensive. And then assets would be things you own that then make you more income. So like a rental property, for example, you're going to get capital gains on that growth of that property, but then you're also, hopefully, and then you also might get a rental income as well. So you're actually making money by owning that asset. So it's a very different way of allocating your funds to make things that are going to make you more money, or if you're going for liabilities, you just end up having less money in your pocket. So it's kind of looking at those 2 different routes.
And you've got on your website / on the little like link tree thing on your social media Instagram page, a PDF, I think, with 60 options or 60 examples of how people can create not necessarily a passive income, but create new things or new streams of income. Why is that? Why does that feel like such a step? Like it makes sense, right? I need to go get more income from somewhere and diversify that. Why is that? Why does that feel so hard to reach, do you think?
I think because the idea of creating money is complex. It's not, so if you're kind of taught you get money by earning it from working a job and it's your employer that gives you that money through your paycheck, to then do anything other than that feels like, what? I can go and get it from somewhere else, and I know that was for me. It was like, well, I'm going to start a little side hustle. So the thing you're referring to is a 60 side hustle ideas sheet, and I've had like thousands of people I think over 1,000 now people download that, which was a surprise to me when I created it. I was like, oh, it's just a free download. But I've tried a lot of them, which is why I put it there. So when I started this journey, I was like, right, what's out there? Let's give it a go. So I started all kinds of different things just to test them out, and some of them work better than others, to be honest. But different people have different strengths, so you've just got to just find these things. And it's that brainstorming of, okay, well, if I start to believe that there's other ways of making money just outside of not just having one stream of income from my employer, okay, well, that means I've got to take action and have ideas and come up with ideas and then set things up. And give it a go, put myself out there. So there's a lot of steps to go through to go from, okay, I'm having an idea, to actually making it happen and getting a first sale or making a bit of income. I understand that. But the thing is, though, the thing that makes me so excited about it, which is why I do talk about this a lot, but is you might just discover something, you're brilliant at, but also that could do really well almost by accident. So if you start pushing these doors and trying things out, you just don't know where it's going to take you. And that's been my story as well, of starting. I mean, my first sort of proper side hustle was teaching maths on the side. I did like tutoring, and it was great because it was very flexible, fit around having the kids. And that kind of wasn't going to ever make me a millionaire, but it was just something to top up, you know, and sort of contribute a little bit when the kids were really tiny. But then I started other things, and those other things have led to really big things. And the stuff I do now, I never would have dreamed. Like, would I have dreamed that I'd have written a book, like, at this point in my life? No. Where did it start? Exploring side hustles and exploring other streams of income. That's where it began. So that's the thing as well that I think is so wonderful about all of this, is when you do put yourself out there, okay, sure, at the start, it might just be to make an extra 100 quid a month. But you don't know where that might take you. You don't know the connections it might lead to, the things you discover about yourself. And that's the fun of it, because it's not, at the end of the day, it's not really about making money. It's about you and your journey and where you're going, and your journey as well of self-discovery of who you are and what's inside you and what you might not have even tapped into yet. So that's a whole nother side to it that you can't quantify that as much, but it's so important. And entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking is a wonderful thing that I think we ought to be fostering more anyway.
Yeah, I'm such an advocate for this as well, because the only difference between you listening now and the person that has side hustles and has different streams of income coming in is they've decided to do it and you haven't yet. Like, that's the only difference, because they were exactly like you. They probably had this idea that that's not for me, or I haven't got any ideas and I don't back myself, I'm not worthy of this, it's never going to happen. They were probably exactly the same as you. The only difference is they've just gone and done it. And I know that sounds really simple and cliche, but like, it is so possible to do those things.
And you've got to remember, every job ever is made up. Somebody made it up once. Someone went, we need someone to do this. Let's create a job for that. So it's all come from human creativity. Someone going, we need this. Let's make it happen. Everything we have that we've created with our hands and through working, it's all made up. So why can't you make up a job that makes you money as well? It's totally doable. Not easy, but doable, I'd say.
I agree. Your book is available on your website and on Amazon. I really recommend people check it out. I like that it's written more of a story, and it brings in like personal examples rather than just being here's 10 steps, although the logical flow of the 10 steps is really helpful as well, because it takes you almost from start to finish through everything that we've spoken through today, but obviously in more depth. How else do you help people, and where can they go and find you?
Yes, I feel so passionately that people need these tools, but I think the majority of us are not financial types. We wouldn't geek out on this stuff. So the way I do my work and the stuff I teach and the book, it's not written to somebody who's a financial type. It's just written to us. It's people like us who need to use money every day, but we need someone to talk our language and just make it make sense. So that's how I write, and that's how I work. And I think, yeah, the books are the best place to go. But if you want resources, I'm always making new stuff. And I've got, at the moment, if you are interested in investing, I've got a free beginners investing workshop, which will just, if you're even curious, it will just help you go, okay, maybe I could do this. So things like that. And if there's anything you think, oh, I really would love to know more about that, just message me. I'm always making content, and I want to answer your questions. That's what I literally do. So that's what my job is now. So just let me know. I just think it's important that please get these tools when you're younger, so that you can build on it the rest of your life, and have less stress and worry and anxiety around money, because that's what we want, right?
Yeah, exactly. And your Instagram tag is
Mentora Money, with an A. Mentora Money.
Mentora Money. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll tag it in the show notes.
Thanks.
Anyway. Anna, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.